floor, I guess, is it implies egoism. People are looking out for their own best interests when they enter into a social contract. So social contract implies egoism. In fact, it would be difficult to argue with that. It would be difficult to say that that was not actually the case. That's social contract. Social contract implies egoism. Now the next one is this. As we see, psychological egoism implies ethical egoism. Social contract implies egoism. The next one is this: ethical egoism leads to the best society. Ethical egoism leads to the best society. Think about this. And this is the idea that if everybody were an egoist and everybody used reason to try to find out what is in their own best interest, and everybody tried to live according to what reason told them was in their best interest, that our society as a whole would benefit. Okay, ethical egoism leads to the best society. Basically, let me give you an example of how this is usually spelled out in terms of economics. Okay, and it's basically like this: if manufacturers work to produce the best product at the lowest price in order to be successful and competitive in the marketplace, would not society benefit overall, as everyone would receive good quality products at a low price? And the people who were employed they would be employed with a competitive wage. And the manufacturer would be in their best interest to provide a competitive wage, because they don't want the good talent going to other competitors. So overall, if everybody was motivated by their own best interest, society as a whole would come up. It would be like this. So the CEO offers a good wage and good benefits, not because he wants his employees to thrive, not because he has a particular concern about their well-being and their families. It's because he realizes that quality workers are going to cost money, and if he doesn't pay a competitive price, they're going to go somewhere else, and they're going to take their quality with them, they're going to take their creativity with them, and they're going to take it right over to his competitors and sell their labor there for a higher price. If he doesn't pay them a good price, then they're leaving. Now, in that case, the CEO is motivated by self-interest. He wants the best quality, and so he's willing to pay for it. The worker, in that case, is also motivated by self-interest, because they want more money or more benefits or better hours or whatever the compensation package is offering. They want more of that. And so they are motivated by self-interest, and so they work hard. They do their job well, because if they don't, then they get fired, right? So, but nonetheless, so you get a better product at a reasonable price, and you get better wages, and so on and so on. That helps everybody in society. Now think about the customer. The customer is looking at all the products, and he's looking at this company over here, and he's looking at this company over here, and he's comparing prices, and he's doing all this, and is he motivated by interest in wanting by an altruistic interest to see this company succeed over this company? No, he's going to look at the quality of the product. He wants to get the best quality at the most reasonable price with the best service, and so on and so on. He's motivated by self-interest. So we've got the CEO, we've got the worker, and we've got the consumer, all motivated by self-interest. And that is and the egoist would say, see, if everybody's doing that, that's going to fuel the economy, that's going to fuel competition, that's going to keep prices low, wages high. At least there's going to be an equilibrium between the two. So between all of these factors, if everybody is looking out for their own best interests, and the overall effect in society is that it's going to raise the bar for everyone. That's what the egoist would argue. Now, on the other hand, the opposite of that would be that everybody gets paid the same, and that we sort of mandate by law what people's jobs are and where they can work, and this sort of thing. And the egoist says, look, you do that, you're going to kill creativity, you're going to kill competition, prices are going to go through the roof, wages are going to go through the floor. Egoism is the way to go, right? So, um, so anyway, that would be another argument that ethical egoism leads to the best society. Um, Now, this is an interesting argument, though, because it's one that would appeal to someone who is not an egoist. It's the egoist trying to. Let me explain what I mean. The egoist, in trying to justify his position, says, "Look, egoism can be better for all of us. It'll make the best society, and everybody's gonna benefit, and this, that, and the other." Is that really an egoist argument, though? Stop the train for just a second and think about it. Is the egoist really concerned about what kind of best of society there is? Is the egoist really concerned that the whole of society would be helped? No, he's not really. He's looking out for his own best interest. Now, it may be in his best interest that society has a sort of manageable level of economics, so that crime is lower, and this sort of thing. That people are generally happier, and there's no civil unrest against the rich and things like that. So there may be a best interest in that, but in raw terms, in simple terms, the argument that egoism leads to the best society, it's not an egoist argument. It doesn't appeal to egoists very much. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And egoists sometimes might say that, but it kind of goes contrary to his core belief in that everyone should look out for their own best interest. That actually is an argument of utilitarianism, that we should do what is in the greatest good for the greatest number. But we'll look at that momentarily. We'll look at that probably in a video following this. Okay, so those are some arguments. The next one is this: ethical egoism is the ultimate ethical principle. Argument number 4: ethical egoism is the ultimate ethical principle. So psychological egoism implies ethical egoism. Social contract implies ethical egoism. Egoism leads to the best society. And the fourth argument was that ethical egoism is the ultimate ethical principle. Now, this argument is a little bit more complex. It was formulated by a lovely lady named Ayn Rand. I think we might have discussed her in class just briefly. She actually is a very interesting figure. If you ever get a chance to, and you've got 80 or 90 hours, you can go ahead and read Atlas Shrugged. She is very much a polarizing character. I've read through it a couple times, and it's interesting because when I agree with her, I agree really heartily. When I disagree with her, I'm disagreeing rather heartily. But nonetheless, she was a primary advocate of ethical egoism in the mid-20th century. Ayn Rand, Aynrand. But interesting author and philosopher nonetheless. She says this. The first point to this argument is this: that a person's life, and when we use the word life, understand I'm not just talking about that sort of energy that sort of animates a human being, right? That a person's life, which includes their goods, what they own, their interests, their pursuits, their hobbies, their goals, everything that they think or have or do that's worthwhile, all of that is wrapped up in life, okay? So a person's life is what is most important. A person's life is it is the summum bonum, the greatest good. That a person's life is the greatest good. So that's what she's working off of here. That a person's life is their own personal greatest good. And your life is your greatest good. My life is my greatest good. And the reason for that is that if you don't have life, if I don't have life, then we have nothing to value at all. If we don't have life, then we have nothing to value at all. One thing that's significant at this point to mention about Rand in this assumption is that she is a very ardent atheist. And so she doesn't believe in an afterlife or anything like that. So she believes that this life is all that there is, and this life and what you make of it is all that there is. And so your life is what is your summum bonum. Your life is your greatest good. That concept of life includes goods and interests and hobbies and pursuits, ambitions, All of that wrapped up into one, that's your life, and that is your greatest good. Because without that life, you have nothing to value whatsoever. If you're dead, you can't value anything. That's her reasoning. So that's number one. A person's life is what's most important to them. Point number two is this. That rationality is the basic instrument for human survival. Rationality is the basic instrument for human survival. A person's life is what's most important to them, and reason or rationality is the basic instrument for human survival. Basically what she's saying is this. If you take human beings and you look at them and you say, how is it that we survive? I mean, we don't have claws. Now I know that some ladies will have the press-on nails and things like that. That doesn't count. We don't have claws. We don't have real sharp big teeth and fangs. We can't fly to help us survive. We can't really run that fast or far compared to some other animals, most other animals. I think a squirrel could outrun us, most of us. So there's none of that. We don't even have a thick enough covering of fur to keep us alive during the winter. There's not a lot about the physique of a human being, even the most athletic of human beings, even the most healthy and hardy of human beings. There's not a lot about us that would help us survive. But the one thing that we have that has made us the apex predator, right, of planet Earth, the one thing that makes human beings more powerful than any other animal on planet Earth, being able to adapt to any environment, is the fact that we have reason. We have a mind that can be used to accomplish anything, to accomplish many things that would be impossible for other animals. No other animals went to the moon. No other animal has both went to the moon and to the bottom of the sea. No other animal has done anything like that. We have that adaptability because of reason, and so Rand says that reason, rationality, is the basic instrument for human survival. That's what we have to make it in this world. Now, if reason is the basic instrument of human survival, altruism, Rand says, is not rational. Altruism is not rational because if everybody did it, nobody would benefit. It's sort of like the two people who are trying to be really selfless, and they're saying, okay, you go through the door first. Oh no, you go through the door first. Oh no, you go through the door first. No, I will hold the door for you. And they stand there at the entrance arguing about it for a half an hour because neither of them will go through the door first. If everybody is selfless, if everybody followed through consistently on it, then there'd be nobody to give anything to, because as soon as you gave something to somebody, they would give it away. Okay, so not only that, but altruism, because it results in us not thinking of ourselves and thinking of others first, altruism would cause us to starve ourselves. And reason would tell us that if everybody did it, there would be nobody to give to. If everybody did it, everybody would end up starving to death with food piled all around them that they were trying to give to somebody else. Altruism, egoism says, is just simply not rational. We must be reasonable, Rand would argue, and because reason is the basic instrument for human survival. And if you don't have life, then you have nothing to value whatsoever. Only egoism, says Rand, only egoism affirms the right of everyone to make their own interest the measure of ethics and thus pursue anything of value at all. Only egoism allows me to say, yes, my needs are important, and then work on behalf of those needs. And they would take the example of Lottie Moon, the missionary that starved herself. They said they would say something along the lines of this: look, she starved herself because she gave away all of her food. She gave away all of her food, but think about if she would have just kept some of the food for herself. She was doing a great thing there in China. If she would have just kept the food for herself, think about how many others she might have helped and how much more benefit she might have got from it. Egoism is the only ethical system, says the egoist, that affirms the right for anybody to make their own interests the measure of ethics and to pursue any value at all. Therefore, egoism is the only rationally defensible ethic, period. Okay? So that is that's Rand's argument. A person's life is what's most valuable to them. rationality is the basic instrument for human survival, and only egoism affirms the right of everyone to make their own interest the measure of ethics and pursue any value at all. Therefore, egoism is the only rationally defensive ethic there is. That's the argument. I'll leave it up to you to sort of sort through that a little bit, and I believe that the topic review at the end of this section has to do with egoism, and it has to do with the question of how is it possible for an egoist would it be possible for an egoist to give their life for something? I believe that's what the question is about, but you might want to check the discussion board to make sure. Now, with that description of egoism in mind, I have a couple of thought experiments that I want to add, just some things I'd like to ask you to think through and maybe draw out some implications here. First is this: how is it possible for an egoist to be said to love someone? How might it be possible for an egoist to say, "I love you"? And this was a question that was put to Ayn Rand. In fact, it's one that's sort of visited in the number of her books. Now, Rand was an interesting author. She did write some just straight philosophy books, but probably her most powerful works, or some of the most the way that she sort of brings it home a lot more clearly is presented in her novels that she wrote. She wrote a number of novels. The two that come to mind are The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. Both of them take this question up: can an egoist truly love someone? They take this question up and sort of explore it in several different facets, and it's very sort of interesting how she does that. You see, according to Rand, an egoist has really the only possible rational explanation of what love is. Typically, people think of love, and you think about if you love your significant other, whether your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you have there. When you talk about loving someone, you think about all the things that you would do for that person, right? You would how much you would endure if only they would love you, or if only they would continue to love